Well, we are indeed in the Reading Circle hour. It is official. I have moved the guest spot to 7 o'clock a.m. instead of 6 o'clock a.m. As I was sharing with you earlier, I've been on the air about 16 years or so now, and so it's time for a little change. So we're going to keep the guests at 7 o'clock because that is working out really well. Not that the 6 o'clock time didn't work well, but I just think it's easier on me as well as my guests and you, the listening audience, to begin the guest segment at 7 o'clock. And from 6 to 7, I use it as for commentary like I did this morning, where I was challenging us to read more. It is amazing how many resources we have for us out there that we just refuse to use, whether it's digitally or whether it's the old-fashioned way, soft cover, hard cover. But we refuse to pick up the book. You cannot get anything out of the book unless you pick it up and sit somewhere or stand somewhere, whatever it is you do, and read it. And just because the author does not necessarily agree with what you agree with does not mean the author doesn't know what he or she is talking about. That kind of sums up the 6 o'clock hour. But right now, my guest has called in right on time. Because whenever we would have the guests on 6 o'clock, I'd always give the instructions to call in at 5:55 a.m. and we'd begin the interview at 6. Well, now the instructions are call in at 6:55 and the interview will begin at 7. And my guest called this morning right on time. The phone rang up at 6:55 and we had a chance to chat for a couple of minutes. He is full of energy and excited to be on the air, and I am excited to have him here. And that is none other than Keith L. Brown, also known as we say, aka, quote, I'm possible, unquote. That's I apostrophe, as the kids can say in school, apostrophe M, not impossible, but I'm possible. The messenger is here. The time has come. Early in life, Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award recipient Keith L. Brown, Mr. I'm Possible, was identified as a special ed and at-risk student primarily because he was very talkative, hyper, and wanted to give all the answers. Ironically, these are a few of the same traits that made him a hit on the legendary Showtime at the Apollo and popular game shows Family Feud and Celebrity Name Game, and make him one of the most sought-after professional speakers, consultants, change agents, and award-winning authors on the planet. Named a world-class speaker and one of the top speakers and consultants in education by Insight Publishing and International Speakers Network, Keith empowers hundreds of thousands of people annually, many of whom are in colleges, school systems, supplemental education agencies, family advocacy agencies, foundations, government agencies, faith-based institutions, corporate America, and the I'm Possible Institute, where he coaches and trains speakers, entrepreneurs, and individuals who seek to improve and expand their communication skills. He has served as a client referral consultant on A&E's hit television series Beyond Scared Straight, and is a frequent guest on iHeart and Sirius XM Radio, often serving as an expert on youth and family enhancement, educational and social justice, and improving the quality of life for all human beings, especially the underserved. He has presented and established partnerships in England, Canada, the Virgin Islands, Barbados, and the Dutch Caribbean, to name a few. As a legislative speechwriter and an award-winning author and co-author, his curriculum, Not Impossible, I'm Possible, a relevant guide on leadership and life skills for students and families, is being read and studied nationally and globally. Keith has been featured in the LA Times, Chicago Sun-Times, New York Newsday, and hundreds of other locals nationwide. His community service and philanthropic work includes, but is not limited to, the following: the Sickle Cell Foundation, National Lighthouse Foundation, Omega Mentoring Program, and the South Fulton Arrow Youth Council. He and his lovely wife, Wakia, an elementary school principal and child and family advocate, are the proud parents of one sensational son, Keon. From special ed to specialty speaker. I know that's right. From at risk to taking risk. I know that's right. The time has come for the world to grasp the life-changing I'm Possible message, and his chief messenger, 2020 Enterprises' own Keith L. Brown, Mr. I'm Possible. Keith, welcome to the microphones of the Reading Circle. Keith? Hello? Don't you love it when I go through all that and then either they can't hear me for some reason? I see all these buttons are lit up. What's going on here? Keith, can you hear me?
I can hear you, sir.
There we go. I tell you, it's always, I sit here and I think all the buttons are lit, and then I look, and it turns out the one that I need is not lit.
All right, listen, I am patient and I am standing by.
I know that's right. Well, hey, we heard the bio, and we welcome you to the reading circle. And I'm a wordsmith. I am a big one who loves a play on words. And the fact that you've taken the word impossible and really kind of played up that I'm possible. That's why you keep hearing me putting the emphasis on I'm whenever I say it. So I love that. And the interesting thing about it, and again, being an educator, and I know exactly the terminology that you're talking about here when you start talking special ed and at risk.
Absolutely.
And so I want to kind of, I like the way near the end where you summarize that when you say from special ed to specialty speaker, from at risk to taking risk. Let's talk a little bit about how did that happen?
Well, first of all, I just want to salute you for helping young people leave their mark and to reach the mark. All right. So
that's right.
Listen, with a medley of excellence. How about that?
There you go. I tell you, I love people. I'm big. Like I said, I do a play on words all the time, and I'm big on name definitions. So when I looked up my entire name, because my name is Marc Allen Medley.
Yes.
When you look up the word Mark, it's warrior. And when you look up the name Allen, it's handsome. And of course, Medley, as you just said, is many things mixed together. You can do. So I always tell people, if I were to define my name, it is a handsome warrior who can do many things. And so people look at me like, well, that's mighty cocky of you. No, that's the meaning. If you look it up, that's the meaning.
Well, and if we would teach more of our young people of color how to define themselves, right, then we would see an increase in their self-esteem, but most importantly, their self-efficacy.
Absolutely.
And so that's what the I'm Possible journey is all about. And first of all, I just want to say good morning to you and to all of your listeners. And I want you to hit me up on Twitter at Keith L. Brown 1911, Keith L. Brown 1911, and we can just go back and forth and tweet, as they say.
I know that's right.
And before it's all over, I definitely want to be hit up at 860-997-6802, 860-997-6802. But, early on I was labeled special ed. I was labeled at risk. I can recall growing up, being in a class of 35, being taken out of that class of 35 and being placed into a class of 5 or 7. And at that time, I knew that I was small and different. But there were educators in my life that told me I was not special ed, but I was special. There were family members, like my dear mother.
That's right.
Who's been in education over 40 years. My father, who many have called this man using the term stepfather. I hate that term, stepfather, but Charles Jordan must be called my stepfather because he stepped in and helped save my life. So Charles and Gertrude Jordan, like I said, my mother taught over 45 years, and now she is suffering with dementia. And so
wow.
It is very key that we promote this I'm Possible message. And there I was with caring parents who edified me, who reinforced academic excellence and excellence in my life, who tapped into my gifts. Those educators, those mentors in the village, in my faith-based institution who worked with me, and those we must understand today, that's what our young people need. And so that journey, incidentally and ironically, I was always one who was a powerful orator. So
right.
Even when I was in special ed in school systems in Savannah, Georgia, as well as Jamaica, Queens, New York, here I am in a junior high school special ed class, but I still won the citywide Speak Out contest. Here I am in some special ed classes at Springfield Gardens High School in Springfield Gardens, New York, but I was still doing speeches by Abraham Lincoln, Malcolm X, and Martin Luther King. And so the essence is that although I was in special ed for some classes, they still were able to tap into my gift of speaking and of writing, and today I am an award-winning speaker and author. And so what we must do is we must tap into the gifts of our young people regardless of what they're labeled, and we have to be careful of the labeling as a whole. And so that's definitely a part of my story, a part of my background. And I also am a former educator. So I taught English I taught speech, I taught drama, worked with federal trio programs, and now I'm also a legislative speechwriter in the Georgia House of Representatives, all that going back to the mislabeling of special ed by a system that just didn't know how to tap into my gifts.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, see, you said something as I was listening in terms of you when you were identifying your stepfather. And you, again, because I love to play on words, you just gave me a whole different insight or view on the word step, because I don't like that term either in terms of like, I know I'm in a second marriage, so therefore I have my biological children as well as I have my quote unquote stepchildren, if you will. And I always tell people I don't distinguish the two. In other words, but what you just said in terms of stepping up and stepping in, now that's a whole different perspective.
Hey, and I want you to use that, and that's it, because, you know, blended families, we must understand in America today, and I work with so many families in school districts across the country and across the world, and I think it's just very important that regardless of the labels, our young people receive love, they receive nurturing,
that's right,
they receive discipline, and they receive something called high expectations.
That's right.
And I just want to thank you for being the great father you are. And I just want to, you know, if I may divert for a moment here, I just left Cleveland, Ohio a couple of weeks ago. I was working with the Head Start program in Cleveland, Ohio. We had hundreds of fathers to come out, and I talked to them about not impossible, I'm possible, being fathers, F-A-T-H-E-R-S, and not F-A-R-T-H-E-R.
I know that's right.
You know, and so
yes,
we, you know, bridging the gap with our fathers, bringing those fathers in, helping those fathers to step up, but also letting those mothers know when you have a man who is willing to step up, who's willing to love your children and nurture them, we don't want you to emasculate him. We don't want you to.
I tell you, you need to say that again. And interestingly enough, whenever I told you I met Dr. Perry at a fatherhood session back in December,
right,
and in his message, he was kind of helping the women understand the same thing. That's what they say, you better preach. You need to say that again, because that's exactly what goes on, unfortunately, in too many cases.
Yes, and once again, so I'm calling on those beautiful mothers out there, because when I speak at PTA meetings across the country, I know mothers are always there. There's always a packed house, but there are so many fathers who would love to step up. There were so many fathers who are present and want to be present. And I say this to all those beautiful mothers out there. If you have that nurturing, loving man in your child's life, father, whether it be a father or a partner in your life that you know, you're remarried or whatever, and he is a positive influence on your children, particularly your son, do not emasculate him. Do not tear down his authority, because then we will retreat.
Absolutely.
We will not feel the value. So I'm calling on those mothers. If that father tells his son to take out the trash, please don't step in and say the trash is too heavy.
Exactly. I mean, and it's funny as we talk about it, I don't want to get too far into that, but at the same time, I think it is an important point to put a pin in. I wonder sometimes, do these women understand when we say the term emasculation, what we're talking about? Because sometimes I don't think whenever you know what, you just cut off my testicles.
Absolutely.
I don't think they understand what we're saying whenever we say that.
And it sends a very bad message to the children in the home as well. And so I know that there's so many men, they say fathers are not present, but there's so many more men that want to be present, that would be present. So I just want to throw that out there to those magnificent, majestic mothers out there. Please allow the fathers to be F-A-T-H-E-R-S and not F-A-R-T-H-E-R. And I just spread that message in Cleveland, Ohio. I was just in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm working with the Gear Up program in West Virginia. And, you know, Gear Up stands for gaining early access and gaining early awareness and readiness for undergraduate programs. And so I'm always talking to young people, always talking to parents, always talking to educators, going back to the root of not impossible, I'm possible. Our young people have to be taught that we're going to need reading over ringtones.
Yes, indeed.
We're going to need textbooks over text messages.
Yes, indeed.
We're going to need less bling bling and more graduation rings.
Now, see, you got me in the amen corner sitting here. I'm sitting here. I have the mic off saying amen. In terms of, what was that Twitter feed again? What was your Twitter site for the listeners?
Twitter is Keith L. Brown 1911. Keith L. Brown, Keith L Brown 1911. You know I'm going to be blowing up your Twitter, and if they want to just contact me and bring me in their area, 860-997-6802, 860-997-6802. See, I'm so pumped up this morning because here I am with Marc Medley. Man, you have interviewed mother, sister Nikki Giovanni, Steve Perry, Dennis Kimbrough, Omar Tyree. So just to be in that lineup today shows the relevance and shows how powerful you are. And this is the Village. But it's so ironic that we even have to talk about the Village today because we didn't have to talk about the Village back in the day. The Village was in place. The Village was implied. The Village was innate. And so what we must realize is that we have to get back to a time where we were not afraid of our young people. You know, I approach young people in schools, but I also approach them in the park. I approach them in schools, but I also approach them in community centers. I approach them on the streets. I'm going up to young men every day, heads up, pants up, grades up. And many of them are saying, Mr. Brown, why should I keep my head up, my pants up, and my grades up? I say, son, because when you do that, you are telling America, I will never be property of the state.
That's
right. I'm
right.
going to own property in the state. So it's very important. It's very important.
Go ahead, brother.
So when you know how to listen, when you know how to read, and readers are leaders, and our young people love to read. So when I go into alternative schools across the country, and they say, well, our young people don't read, I say, no, they do read, but how relevant is the topic? So when I find these at-risk youth, like I like to say youth at promise, when I find these youth at promise, and I find out that these young men love sports, then I need to give them a Sports Illustrated to read. They can become critical thinkers from reading this article. When these young ladies are into fashion, I'm giving them an Essence magazine to read. Read this article. And then that would encourage them to read in other areas of their lives, become buddies with social studies, have a heart for language arts, create a path for math, and form an alliance with science. But we have to be relevant and start with what they love to read. Give them that content. Readers are leaders. You and I both know that when we were young, we read and we went around the world in our minds, and that's what we have to get back for these young people today.
I know that's right, man. You said a mouthful, and I love the way you're playing on the words and turning them from something relatively negative to something positive. And even let's go back to the whole special ed thing, because Keith, I tell you, I have my special ed classes in my building, and a lot of times I will walk in, and when I say it, I'm not saying it flippantly.
Yes.
But I tell them all the time, and what I'm trying to do, my intent when I do that, is to get them from under the label. So what I'll go in and tell them, I said, look, I don't want to hear nothing about this special ed crap. There is no such thing as special ed.
Yeah.
I kind of take it the same view. You are special, make no doubt about that. But as far as you using this special ed crutch, I said the world doesn't know anything about special ed. When you walk in the store, they don't know anything about special ed.
Correct.
When you apply for your job, they don't know special ed. I said, so I need you to get from under that. I don't want to hear, Mr. Medley, well, what you expect? I'm in the ed. I don't want to hear that, because no one else is going to accept that from you when you walk out of the confines of this building. So a lot of times I will walk in there and tell them, I don't believe in this. And then because now there's a whole nother thing that you touched on that we could spend hours on, and that's the mislabeling, especially for African-American males.
Absolutely. And it goes back to perception. My wife, who like you is a principal in a school district, and she tells her faculty and her team every day, if we can build children, we won't have to repair adults. So she calls all of them geniuses. And we have these 4 affirmations that my wife uses that I use around the country. And, I know people say, well, those are cliche-ish. No, it's not cliche.
Right.
Cliche is something that if they adopt and they believe it and it becomes relevant, then that's who they become. And those 4 affirmations are, I love myself, I believe in myself, I'm proud of myself, I'm a genius.
Once again, that's right.
I love myself, I believe in myself, I'm proud of myself, I'm a genius. And I believe that is so important that we get that to our young people. I just got back from Wisconsin, been working out there for 3 years. Wisconsin has been labeled the worst state in America for educating African Americans.
Wow.
And here I am. I go into these school districts, and I work with African Heritage, Inc. to promote high expectations in the schools, to let the young people know how powerful they are. I have students, or should I say scholars, because I don't even use the term student a lot. I use the term scholar because I believe anybody can
Exactly.
So it takes effort to be a scholar. And so when I'm in these classrooms in Wisconsin, and I hear young African-American scholars telling me that they are DLB, and I say, what is that? They say, we're down low black. What do you mean by that? They say, well, we can't show who we truly are. And
wow.
So we can only do it in the neighborhood. We can only be black in certain areas of our lives. I believe that's so sad, because once you strip an individual of his or her identity, then they don't know who they are. And if you don't know who you are, you will operate out of your excellence, out of the sense of your greatness. And so that's why you find so many of our young people troubled today. But let me say this. I just posted the other day about how I touched the lives of young people of all races. When I was in West Virginia, my audience was 98% white.
Right.
But the sad part about it is, in America today, Adam Lanza, who committed that atrocity in Newtown, Connecticut, killing 20 babies and 6 adults at Sandy Hook Elementary School, when you see a Jared Lee Loeffner, a young white male who went to a congressional event in Arizona with a duffel bag and was able to walk up to Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords and shoot her point blank in the head and also killed individuals. Now, you see this young white male at a congressional event with a duffel bag,
right,
and no one approached him. Now, had he been a young black male with the same duffel bag, we all know how that might have ended.
That's right.
In tragedy. And so until young black males in this country are given the same benefit of the doubt as the young white males I serve, until young black males in this country are viewed as prospects and not suspects, we're going to see the inadequacies that we see in our educational system, that we see overall in the criminal justice system. And so that's why it's very important for us to stay involved, Mark. That's why I tell parents you must stay involved. That's why community leaders must stay involved. That's why the church must step up and be involved in our young people's lives. It's so important. Man, there's so much to talk about, but this is what we do. And this is who we are. Not impossible, I'm possible. The mission and the movement continue.
Now, see, the interesting thing, again, going with your bio and based on what we've been talking about, because this is another thing people don't understand who are not in education. And you, for whatever reason, you were placed in special education. I have my theories, but let's take it for what it is. All right?
Right.
There are two ends of the spectrum of special education, because you were talking about your oratory.
Yes.
There is like in the school. Matter of fact, I was the principal of the first gifted and talented school in the city for a year, and then they moved me next door to a challenging school to turn that around. People don't realize that gifted and talented is the other end of the special ed spectrum.
Absolutely.
So the fact that you are gifted in oratory and you have your other gifts, that labeling, if you will, it might as well have been gifted and talented. Now, I don't know which classes they put you in or whatever, but the fact that you had the oratory, and that's why I know going from special ed to specialty, or however you had that in your bio.
Specialty speaker, absolutely.
See, this is what, it gets to me, because especially I see it every day in terms of the quick classification. In other words, there are some areas in terms of African American males where you're taking as them not being able to sit still. That's a part of their norm. And if you're not of that culture and you automatically assume something's wrong with that child, your first response is, let's classify. Yes. And what people don't understand is it's easier to classify than it is to declassify. That once you get into that tract, it's very hard to get back out of it. And a lot of times, I don't know if you're familiar with Dr. Umar Johnson or not.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Talk, brother.
I've been in sessions with Umar as well. I've been trying to get Umar on the show. He keeps dodging me to do the interview. I might have to go after him again. But he talks in terms of this whole classification thing, and he actually steers parents away from the classification. He actually counsels them from the legal side and the educational side as to why you might not want to do that just because the school says. Now, that's one thing if the child really needs it. It's another thing to just jump to that conclusion because the African-American male can't sit still.
And listen, I remember distinctly being told in the 3rd grade, Keith L. Brown, you talk too much. And I know that's why I was labeled, because I was a talk talker, but, now I get paid to talk around the world.
I know that's right.
It's just so ironic. Listen, I just left, I was just at Livingstone College in historic Salisbury, North Carolina, and here I am with hundreds of African-American youth in federal TRIO programs, Upward Bound, Talent Search, and all of these programs, these federally funded programs that we definitely hope that this administration does not attempt to cut these relevant programs in our lives for young people of color primarily. And those young people were just excited about knowledge, and they were excited to talk to me about academic excellence, and they have this term called LIT. And so I find out what the terminology is, and they're like, Mr. Brown, you are lit. You are lit. I said, listen, you all are lit as well. You all are leaders in training. And now they're sending out tweets, man. If you go to my Twitter page, you'll see some of them. They said, Mr. Brown, you're just lit. And I said, you are too. You are leaders in training. And next week I'm headed to Coastal Alabama Community College, where I will be speaking to thousands of young people at the T.J. McNair Memorial Summit. T.J. McNair, a young man who lost his life several years ago. And I'm speaking at this summit at Coastal Alabama Community College next week for federal TRIO programs, thousands of youth in Upward Bound. And they are first-generation college students, college scholars, and I must let them know that it doesn't matter that you're first generation. That just simply means you are the interruption in the bloodline. That simply means you will be the trailblazer, and after you, your little brothers and sisters, your cousins will now want to go to college because of your example. So you are, in essence, a legacy builder. And so when they want to talk to me, Mark, about 2 Chainz and the other rappers, I said, but 2 Chainz went to Alabama State University.
Exactly.
You do understand that Master P has a college degree. You do understand that Lil Wayne was in college. You do understand that Little Romeo went to the University of Southern California. David Banner. So all of these rappers and hip-hop artists, many of them who you love, many of them have college degrees or they went to college, so they are educated themselves. I love the fact this Chance the Rapper, this young man who's advocating in Chicago, 24 years old. And when I was in Chicago, I had an opportunity to see some of his work up close as I served Chicago public schools. This young man just got the BET Humanitarian Award, 24 years old. He's advocating in our schools, and so that's what I do with young people as well. I mentor with the South Fulton Arrow Youth Council right here in Georgia. South Fulton Arrow Youth Council, sfayc.org, where we are training young people to be global leaders, young people of color to be global leaders. And so I'm just all about high expectations. I'm all about holding parents accountable and letting those parents understand today, stop spending money you don't have, buying things you don't need.
Absolutely.
To people who don't care about you.
I know.
Listen, make sure that that if you're buy that computer, invest in a computer.
Right.
Young people can go online and they can read and they can explore and they can do their research and they can build their own Facebooks. They can build their own Facebooks and keep their face in the books. They can do this. They don't just have to have Air Force Ones, but they can fly on Air Force One.
I know
but
that's
it comes
right.
back, Mark, to our parents equipping our young people and the community surrounding and supporting our parents. So that's what I do as I travel around the country to school districts and to colleges and universities around the world. All about reading, all about literacy, all about high expectations, and all about getting our people into a sense or a mentality that says excellence is not just for European people.
That's right.
And I know we hear this all the time. The young people of color, well, it always comes up in every assembly. Well, Mr. Brown, I'm told that I talk like white people. And, I say, well, if talking white means you're intelligent, what does it mean to talk black?
And see, I hear that all the time, too. And my pushback on that is very similar. It's like doing something in its proper way does not have a race or a color to it.
Thank you.
And so whenever I get that, it's kind of like, do you understand whoever said that to you? And if you take that, do you understand what that's saying? Because what that does is whenever they say you talk, quote unquote, white, that is ascribing talking proper to white. So that means if you're not talking proper, when you're doing it the wrong way, you're ascribing that or you're connecting that with being black. So is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. The danger of that, or the detriment of that, is that now I serve hundreds of thousands of young people of color, and if they're in their communities, they're being told, you talk white, and academic excellence is only for white people, and college is only for white people, and being able to articulate is only for white people, why should I have high expectations? Why should I want to make the honor roll? Why should I want to be the valedictorian and salutatorian? Why should I want to go to college if it is not for me, and those who look like me and supposed to be nurturing me, they are telling me that college is not for me. They are telling me that to speak correctly or to use standard American English is not for me. So what we have to do as adults, we have to make certain that we are giving our young people the right message.
Correct.
That means college, not if, where.
I know that's right.
You tell your children, don't ask them if they're going to college. Ask them what college are you going to, and whether they are in 3, 4, 5 years old in Head Start, because I serve many Head Start programs, or they are 16, 17, and 18 in high school, they still need you more than ever. So just because they're in high school does not mean you shouldn't go to the PTA meetings or the curriculum night. So I just believe it's very important that we overall in America have high expectations, but primarily and especially in the African-American community, we have to amp up the high expectations. We have to let our young people know that although I'm a huge fan of sports, that you can do more than dribble a ball or hit the ball, or you can do more than score a touchdown. You can do more. And so that's what I'm all about, and that's what this I'm Possible curriculum that I have. I just want, if I may mention that, the I'm Possible curriculum that we have that's been out now for 2 years, the Not Impossible, I'm Possible curriculum. Mark, we have the book, and we have the scholar portfolio, and we have the facilitator's guide, and it is a curriculum, and it's being used in school districts across the country. And we talk about academic excellence and college and career readiness and character and leadership. Talk about anti-bullying and things of that nature to get our young people prepared, to get them ready. And listen, it's on their level, but it takes them to another level. That's the Not Impossible, I'm Possible curriculum, and they can go to KeithLBrown.com to see that, www.KeithLBrown.com. Man, I'm so amped up. It's 7 in the morning, man, and we are amped up.
That's right, because you know what? It's a topic worthy of being amped up about. And see, you guys, Absolutely. You and Perry and everybody that's in that stable, and those of you, ultimately, that's where I'm going. People ask me, don't you want to be assistant superintendent, a superintendent? I said, no, I want to travel the country, and I want to do exactly what you're doing. I want to impact other schools and districts and kids and go around to help people understand. I don't, up here in New Jersey, because all of us kind of in this business kind of know each other to a degree. When I mentioned Dr. Johnson, Umar just now, you were like, oh yeah, I don't know if you know Baruti Kafali or not.
Oh, Dr. Principal Kafali.
Yes, indeed. All right. So I know Baruti as well. But matter of fact, Baruti and I are in the same area. And before...
And his son went to Claflin University.
Okay.
And I spoke at Claflin University, had a chance to fellowship with his son and many other young black males. And let me just, on a more sentimental note, I was just with Lucia McBath the other night, fighting for the rights of young black males to end police brutality through the Ubuntu America Project, And Lucia McBath is the mother of Jordan Russell Davis, who was slain in a gas station parking lot in Jacksonville, Florida, because his music was too loud.
Wow.
I served the Boys and Girls Club in Sanford, Florida, where Trayvon Martin attended before he was murdered. I stood in Mike Brown's blood the second day in Ferguson, Missouri. I worked with the Oakland Unified School District, during the time when Oscar Grant was murdered. And we look at on and on and on with Sandra Bland and Philando Castile. And just that verdict, just the Philando Castile verdict should let us know, as a society, there's something rotten to the core with our society, because these were not police officers who handed the verdict down. These were citizens who handed this verdict down. And so that lets you know that when you see case after case after case where the police are exonerated for these heinous murders, and I want to stop right there and say 98% of our police officers are doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing, and I salute them because I work with the police officers and with community policing, so I want to salute our law enforcement officials. But it's those 2%, like the individual who murdered Philando Castile, but yet you saw a jury who were not his peers, Philando Castile's peers, and they did not think he was worthy of justice. And so when you see time and time again all of these acquittals, that lets you know that young black males in America are still God's children, but America's orphans.
Absolutely. Could not have said it any better myself, and you're absolutely right.
And that's why I fight. When people say, why do I fight? Because Trayvon Martin, Mike Brown, Philando Castile, Oscar Grant, Walter Scott, Tamir Rice, Freddie Gray, and on and on and on. They can't breathe, but I can. So as long as I can breathe, I'm going to breathe life. I'm going to breathe hope. I'm going to breathe educational justice, social justice, academic excellence. When I open up at the Educational Justice Conference on July 17th in Orlando, Florida, co-sponsored by Bethune-Cookman University, when I open up at that conference, I'm going to talk about the impact we have when we breathe the correct air, when we breathe with advocacy, and we breathe life into our young people, and we breathe life into our parents, and we breathe life into the high expectations that we once had as a community. So I don't know why we have to keep putting emphasis on it. You know why? Because it's been watered down in our communities. And I love the fact that you go into those classrooms and you tell those young people that you're not special ed. Nobody's going to care about that in society.
Right.
You are somebody. You are great. You have to perform. And I believe this. Our young people will rise to the level of expectations that we set for them.
That's correct. I believe that as well. And it's interesting in terms of your 4 affirmations, because every year I change up my affirmations. This year we had about 7, and they were called the I am affirmations, because whatever you put behind the words I am becomes your reality.
I love it.
So
it is real.
It becomes real. And so every morning this school year, I am reading better and better every day. I am thinking critically more and more every day. I am present and on time. It was about 7 of them in all. Every morning, that's what we did during morning announcement. My whole building, I tell them I want the building to shake.
Yeah.
And we went through that. But at the 4 that you gave, I'm going to add into for next year, because whenever we come back in September, we're going to have a new set of I ams. And I like them 4 that you gave us. Because whatever you put behind the words I am, which in your case you have I'm, and I'm is the contraction for I am. Whatever you put behind I am becomes your reality. So if you're putting the word possible after I am, that means you're going to make it happen.
Absolutely. I'm not impossible. I'm possible.
I'm possible.
It just changes the word when you put an apostrophe
right
between the I and the M. Your whole world changes. So sometimes it's just the little things that count. The little things. Parents come out to those PTA meetings more. I tell parents, if you can pack football stadiums, and basketball gyms for games, then you got that PTA meeting. Because,
No, you're right, and because in my district, and I work with, we have a part of our district is called Family and Community Engagement. It's a whole division.
I need to be there.
And the thing is, and I always, and the head of that, the director of that, we're very good friends, and we're in an urban area. So what I tell him all the time, I said, man, we have got to come up with a way that we teach our parents how to approach the school board at the microphone, because a lot of our parents think that if they get up on the mic and they call names and they curse and they scream, that they've done something, not realizing that the board just sit there and look at them, roll their eyes, and keep moving. But when they go up there with a cogent and relevant argument that's well articulated, then heads begin to turn. So I said, we need to start doing training sessions on how to approach the microphone.
Oh, I love that. I love that, and I do that. We do that, and it's so ironic because we do that at the I'm Possible Institute here in Atlanta, and we work at the I'm Possible Institute with giving parents a voice, and not only that, we build entrepreneurs and speakers like yourself, teaching them how to increase their impact, influence, and income, as well at the I'm Possible Institute, how to communicate effectively,
yes,
how to become an effective entrepreneur, how to become an effective parent, how to become an effective advocate, because you're right. When you stand before people and you're bullying them on the microphone, no one is paying attention, and the ones that are hurt are our children. So
that's correct.
So I'm training parents around the country to do that. I'm coaching individuals. I'm training individuals through the I'm Possible Institute how to communicate effectively, how to de-escalate. Just like many of our police need to be taught how to de-escalate on the scene, many of our parents need to be taught how to de-escalate. I understand that you're angry. I understand that you're frustrated, but you have to be able to tone it down And we even have to teach our young people that it's so amazing how I teach so many young people anger management, but
right.
adults don't think they deserve the same training, and they do.
Man, they do.
You know, and so as I go into these school districts and I empower, we have the pep rally, pupils, educators, and parents. It's called the pep rally, PEP, pupils, educators, and parents. So that means we touch the lives of the pupils, the educators, and the parents. And when we're talking to the pupils, it's about college and career readiness. It's about life skills and leadership and respect and character. When we're talking to those educators, we talk about classroom management skills. We talk about how to be engaging and relevant in the lives of our young people, team building, differentiation. When we're talking to parents, we talk about literacy. That's for literacy.
Right.
Parental involvement, literacy. Let me say that again. Literacy. We literally need literacy. Okay? We literally need literacy. That's what I'm saying, because many of our parents are investing in the wrong things, and so much fashion and so many materialistic items and so many valuables, but we need to focus on the values, because when that child is 3, 4, and 5 and you're putting name brand clothes on that child does not know what he or she is wearing.
That's absolutely. And see, I have a whole pet peeve with name brands anyway. Or for that matter, wearing jerseys with somebody else's. I have a Yankees jersey that I had custom made that has my Medley name on the back. And I tell people all the time, I am not wearing anybody else's name on me because that's not my name. Why would I wear Jeter? Or why would I wear whoever? I mean, Cruz or whoever. If I'm going to wear a jersey, Keith, you can rest assured it says Medley on the back, or it just says the number. There is no name. And I try to help parents understand connecting the dots, because now we're going back into economics as well. Do you understand? Because my undergraduate degree is business administration with a concentration in marketing. So I understand fully what companies do in terms of the creation of products, how much it costs them to make it, and how much they sell. And I try to help parents understand, do you understand you're making somebody else rich?
Yes.
You are making and most likely that somebody else doesn't look like you. Yes. Most likely. I'm not saying it, but most likely. And I understand, I'm not saying that they shouldn't be able to get rich, but you need to understand how the game is played. And as you just said, if your priority was a little bit different and you focused on the right things, hey, that one day somebody might be making you rich.
And that's the key in our young people with the social media. They are so brilliant.
Yes.
And they are so creative. And that's why when I go into schools, I talk about innovative classrooms.
Right.
And innovation and tapping into the gifts of our young people. It is so much work that we have to do. And I'm just so blessed and fortunate to be joining you and Dr. Steve Perry and Mr. Yusef Salam and others in that work, man. Once again, can I say 860-997-6802?
Yeah, you can say it.
997.
Keep saying it.
Yeah, man. The website is KeithLBrown.com. The Twitter is KeithLBrown1911. KeithLBrown1911. This impossible is not a moment, man. It's a movement.
Right.
When I went to a school district, that's a moment. When I leave, it should be a movement. When I go into college, it's a moment. When I leave, it should be a movement. When I go into communities, we're talking about it's only a moment, but then we turn the moment into a movement. So everywhere young black males and people of color have been slain in this country recently, I've been there. I've worked with Baltimore City Schools. I've worked with Coppin State University, where Freddie Gray is. I knew some of the Emmanuel 9 that were killed in Charleston, South Carolina, as I served the Charleston School District, and the effects of what happened with Walter Scott. You understand, in Coon Rapids, Minnesota, and St. Paul, understanding what happened with Philando Castile. And we have to get to a point where everyone stands up. And that's an issue, because especially with the Philando Castile case, here was a man who knew his right to bear arms. He told the police that he was bearing arms. Where was the NRA after this verdict?
Right.
The NRA is all about bearing arms and the right to bear arms and constitutional rights. Well, then the NRA should have been the first organization standing up after the verdict, but we know how that goes, don't we?
Yes, we do.
We know how that goes. So we can't solve all the problems, but one thing I do know is that I can fight for educational and social justice for our young people, for our parents, for our family so that we can build legacy, and then America will be great again. That's how you make America great again. Yeah. No pun intended. No,
that's exactly right. Yeah. I did a whole thing on Make America Great Again. I think it was last week in my commentary section, or week before last, something along those lines. But you're absolutely correct. And that education thing is a passion of mine. And I just, in terms of, for me, someone was always there for me, whether it was my parents, mentors, church, or whatever. And so therefore my drive is to be there for somebody else. And you were talking earlier about this whole notion of, and I had this conversation with somebody not long ago, in terms of any building that I go into, one of the first meetings I have is with the guidance counselor. And I let him or her know right off the bat, if I ever hear tell of you telling a child he or she is not college material, I will go after your license. And we make that clear right up front. I said, don't you, a child or a parent better not ever come to me and said, the guidance counselor said I'm not college material. Because if they do, I will seek tenure charges against you.
That's felonious. Because in essence, what you're telling that child is that your future is not relevant.
Right.
You're bleak. You're bleak. And so when I'm a realist and an optimist. And so when I have young men like the young man at Turning Point Academy who said, well, Mr. Brown, I probably can't go to North Carolina Central, or North Carolina A&T. I said, but you can go to that technical college.
That's right.
You can go to the trade college.
That's
and
right.
Get that trade. So there are many forms of college. Now, he said, I can go to trade school. I said, no, trade college. Okay? I don't want you to, you've been to school. You're done with K through 12. You're going to trade college. You're going to trade in school for college.
Go ahead now. I hear you.
The technical college. Man, I'm all about keeping the expectations where they need to be.
That's
right. That's what I focus on when I go into school districts and I talk to educators. I'm in Hickman Mills School District in Kansas City, Missouri. All over the country, I take this same relevant message and I build that rigor because our young people can learn. We've been learning since the beginning of time.
Yes.
Mathematicians and scientists. So our young people can excel. We just have to make it more relevant. We have to make it more engaging. We have to get their attention. And so that's what I talk to educators about. And I know what your school looks like just because of the relevance that you have and the critical thinker that you are. And we can't change it. We cannot change the fact that we deserve high expectations. And when I speak at family reunions this summer, I'm going to talk about that. When I'm at these college programs this summer, the summer programs, I'm talking about that. For back-to-school programs, that's what I'm talking about. Continuing the I'm possible journey, not impossible, I'm possible. And on the back of my T-shirt, it says I have two options. Either I'm going to make it or I'm going to make it.
That's right.
That's it.
That's it.
No, young man, no, young lady. There is no other option. There is no other option. Heads up, pants up, grades up. Young ladies, you are not thoughts. Young ladies,
That's
you're
right.
not on a reality show. This is not the Bad Girls Club. This is not the Housewives of every city. Okay, all right. You know about that.
Yes, I do.
Housewives of New Jersey. We got the Housewives of Atlanta.
That's right.
Right. So I'm teaching them, young lady, you are more than what you see on a reality show.
Yes.
You are more than what you see on Love and Hip Hop. There's so much more to you. You're not female dogs. You're not
right.
Female dog walks on four legs. A trick is performed by a magician. You are a young lady of purpose. And they love that. They tweet those things. They put me on Instagram. I'm a young lady of purpose because I tell them over and over and over again. And that's what we have to do. We have to compete.
Yes.
Negative media that's destroying many of our communities, but we can do it. You know why we can
Yes.
do it? Because when people tell me, well, Mr. Brown, we only have them for 8 hours. They're out in the world for 16 hours, but those 8 hours are so critical.
Yes, they are.
Where you can change the paradigm. And so they're looking forward to coming to your class. As a matter of fact, when the bell rings at the end of the day,
they don't want to leave.
Exactly.
Right.
The transportation drive. They're wondering where all the kids.
That's right.
They're sitting because they don't want to leave because their school is so relevant.
That's right.
That's the atmosphere that we create with the Impossible movement.
I tell people all the time, because again, like I said, I serve in an urban community. Matter of fact, I serve in one of the schools that for the most part people have written off. And now we're beginning to get noticed. Now people are beginning to stand up and pay attention.
Absolutely.
But I tell people all the time, when I come out into the hallways or in a class, my kids treat me like a rock star.
Yes.
And I tell people they're not doing that because of my title of principal. Because the community I serve, they have no respect for age, gender, title. They have no respect for any of that. But they come out there, these kids run to me and they hug, and they will leave their teacher's line to come run and hug the principal. I mean, it will cause all kinds of chaos when I walk out into that hallway, and I'm not exaggerating. But that was something that was created. And I know the listening audience is tired of hearing this story, but I'm going to tell it again because it's new for you. A few years ago, some guys in New Orleans, they did what they were considering somewhat of a social experiment. They printed up the word love in red letters on white background paper, and they hung them all around the city of New Orleans. They didn't say anything. It just said love. So folks were kind of confused. Like, is this an advertising campaign? Is it a new marketing campaign? Is it a product? What is all this love? What they were trying to see was if just seeing the word subliminally would cut down on violence, would change folks' thoughts. I took the idea, and this was a couple summer goals, and I came back to my technology teacher. I said, I want you to print me 300 signs on white paper and red letters, the word love, and laminate them. They did that, Keith, and I hung them in every classroom, hallway, bathroom, stairwell, office in the building. And they have been hanging there ever since. And I do believe that, among some other things, is a part of why the changeover occurred, wherein kids were feeling loved. I mean, I started seeing parents say, I love you in the morning before they drop their kids off. Parents who up to that point were calling their, kids names. We're now dropping off, giving a kiss, saying, I love you and all that kind of stuff. But it changed the culture and climate of my building by just having those signs placed all over the place. And then constantly, like you were talking about those high expectations, constantly working with the teachers. Because, there's a difference between the pity and the push.
Oh, I love it. Say that again.
There's a difference between pity and push. There is. So now you get teachers that think because of where they come from or where they live, oh, they can't do that. Yes, they can.
Yes.
Yes, they can.
Yes.
So
that's powerful. I just love that when they see it. When they can see it.
Right.
Once you see it, it sticks in your mind. We have this chant, and it says GOODJOB, good job, good job. If I come to your school, I'm going to say that chant.
I know that's right. Hey, and I'm going to be right there with you.
GOODJOB, good job, good job. And I have adults who are telling me, man, I'm so tired of that chant, but I can't get it out of my head.
And that's exactly what it's designed to do.
Yes. So when they see that in your building, when they see love, yes, it's transformational. And that's what we have to believe in our communities, that we deserve it. I work with the One Church, One School program with the CME Church, Christian Methodist Episcopal Church. And in Chicago, everywhere there's a CME Church, they adopt the nearest school. And so that's, church and school working together
right.
as one, where they get out of those four walls and they are implementing change in the schools. Later on in July, later on this month, I'll be at the Leadership Training School of the 9th Episcopal District of the Christian Methodist Episcopal Church in Arizona, where they're talking about school and they're talking about high expectations.
Right.
So, yes, our young people are on summer break, but they're not going to let them take a break from being empowered and being engaged. And so as I travel around the country, it's so important that we understand that we only have a few years to help our young people start the rest of their lives.
That's correct.
This is a life or death situation that we're in, and at the end of the day, I'm the EMT. So when I come in, when you see those red lights
right.
Above my head, is because I'm coming to resuscitate a young person. I'm coming to resuscitate a school or a school district. I'm coming to give some mouth to mouth. Do you understand?
I do. I understand it well.
Listen. I'm coming to do some surgery. I'm coming to revive communities. I'm coming to revive young people. And I'm coming to thank educators, because educators have been beaten down so
yes,
much.
indeed.
But they work hard every day, giving literally blood, sweat, and tears, giving lunch money to children who are hungry.
Right.
All right? So they do more than provide book knowledge. They provide knowledge as surrogate parents as well. So I'm going to give a shout-out to all of our educators today and all of your listening audience who are educators, who are not just paraprofessionals, but power professionals.
Yes, indeed.
Nutrition staff, to the transportation staff, to all of those individuals that make up school districts across the country. I salute you on today for the work that you do to build legacy in our families.
No, you're absolutely right, because we play so many different roles, and some of them have now been put upon us, but others are those roles that we take on voluntary.
That's right.
And for many of the children, we become everything that's not in the home where it should be. I had a little girl come to me one time and say, "Can I call you uncle?"
Wow.
I've had sons that, "Can I call you dad?" I mean, because they're looking for, because again, the community I serve is predominantly, like we were talking earlier, the single mother homes. So the kids are looking for those male figures. That's probably why they resonate to you so well when you come in and talk to them, because they're hearing a male voice. And because everybody always kind of say, "I don't understand why they listen to the males differently than they do with the female teachers." I said, you need to understand the psychology. You're looking at children that the predominant voice they hear are female voices at home. Then they get to the school and hear another female voice in their teacher. So that to them, it's kind of like that Charlie Brown thing. It's wah, 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 wah.
Yeah.
But when a man now speaks, that comes in at a whole different pitch, a tone, the volume, everything. It comes in at a different wave to them. And because they're not hearing it, and for lack of a better word, it's refreshing to them.
Yes. And I let people know when a man shows up with the right intentions, the atmosphere changes.
It does.
The atmosphere changes. And that's why I'm constantly mentoring men.
Yes.
And telling men we have to be mentors.
Yes.
To be mentors. And MENTOR and MENTOUR, men on tour.
I know that's right.
You have to tour your community first. And so when I was in Cleveland, Ohio, where, when I was leaving, I had to let them know, now I have armed you to go be the warrior in your community.
Yes.
I don't live in Cleveland. I live in Atlanta, but I travel all over the world spreading the I'm possible message.
Right.
But now you are armed to go back to your community. You are armed to go back and take over your block. You are armed to go back and then to refurbish the thought process in your own community. And those men left empowered. And so that's why I love working with fathers, because, once again, so many fathers want to do more. They want to do more. They want to step up more. And so once again, as we did earlier, I have to encourage the women out there, please do not take that power away from the powerful, positive men in your homes.
That's
and in
right.
Your communities. It's so important that our young people, primarily our young men, understand what a significant man looks like. Not a male, but a man, because I was born male. It was not a choice.
That's right.
Choice.
That's right.
Different. There's a difference. And so this is what this message is all about. This is what the literacy is all about.
That's right.
We read books, we read people.
Oh, you're right. There's a program that, let me see, this is the first or second year that I haven't done it, but up until this point, I don't know if you're familiar with Tony Dungy, the coach. He was
absolutely.
All right.
I'm reading some of Coach Dungy's work right now. Every morning, I meditate. He and Lauren, I meditate on Tony Dungy's words every morning.
Well, he has a program called All Pro Dads.
Yes.
And I implemented that program at every school I was in, and that's a monthly meeting with just the fathers and their kids. Wow. And Keith, you would not believe how many mothers came up to me and said, "Can I come?" I said, "No, it's for men and their children only."
Yes.
And the woman would say, "But I am the dad and the mom." I understand that. I said, "But you're a female. It's for the father figure." It doesn't have to be their father. It could be their uncle. It could be a cousin. It could be a grandfather. But there's a part in the curriculum, because that's a curriculum also. There's a part in the curriculum that the father or the father figure has to stand up, and they have to say something positive about that child. It doesn't have to be academic. even though we're in a school setting. But it has to be something like, I'm just glad little Christy made up her bed this morning. Yeah. I'm just glad, little Bobby did this. I'm just glad Raheem did that. I'm just glad Raheem is my grandson. Man, that section of the meeting would bring folks to tears. I'm talking about hardcore brothers would be standing up there with tears on because of the reaction of the kids when they would hear that male person say something positive about them.
That's so powerful. And it's so powerful because quite often our men and fathers have been taught not to show anything.
That's right.
And they've been taught that men don't cry. And I tell
right.
fathers, teach your sons that real men do cry. Because that's why we have so many of our young men of color who are in juvenile detention
right.
centers and who are incarcerated because they were never taught how to show emotion.
Right.
Crying is a human emotion. So when you tell a young man or a young boy that men don't cry, you are in essence taking away and stripping him of his humanity.
Correct.
And we have to stop doing that in our community, and we have to stop allowing society to define us in that way as well. And so I tell fathers, you can cry. And man, we were in Cleveland, and so many fathers were breaking down. So many fathers were breaking down, just crying and falling into my arms, and we were hugging each other, and we were holding each other up. And one man said, I haven't cried in years.
Right.
I didn't know what it was like. And he said, just to purge. He said, it feels like a 500-pound gorilla is off my back. I said, man, that's what it is. The monkey is off.
That's right.
Now you can go out and be the father and the husband that you were called to be. And so that's, once again, it goes back to that not impossible, I'm possible. Teaching fathers that it is possible for you to love your children. It is possible for you to show emotions. It is and it is so essential that your sons and your daughters see this, because then your daughters know what type of man
to look for.
To marry in
yes,
the future.
Indeed. Yes, indeed.
Right, and your sons now know how to treat women with respect and how to now function as real men of purpose and real men of distinction and real men of excellence. And so this is what it's all about. The reading circle, reading books, reading each other, reading our community, because, when we say in our community, I'm going to read you, normally it's negative.
Right.
No, I'm going to read you and it's positive.
That's right.
I'm going to read you and read the greatness in you. Each chapter is going to be about your greatness and your possibilities. And once again, the promise that you have on the inside. And when I leave a school district, a college, a family advocacy agency, those young people are so pumped up. Those parents are so pumped up. And you know what happens, Mark? Many people tell me, they say, well, motivation doesn't last. I said, well, neither does taking a bath. That's why we do it every day. Okay? So when I'm in your district and I give the inspiration and the education
right.
and the transformation, once I leave on
right.
the next day, you need to give the implementation.
That's right.
Because if you implement the affirmations, if you implement the I'm Possible curriculum, if you implement the relevance and the engagement that I taught you, then it will carry on. And then it will be as if I never left. It will be as if Principal Marc Medley has never left. It will be that way, that in the home they're talking about Principal Medley. In the home they're talking about Mr. I'm Possible. But when they're talking about us, I want them to be thinking about themselves.
Right.
So
You're
it's so very important.
Right.
They leave that assembly and they're talking about me. I want them to be thinking about themselves. And as an educator by nature, I'm just so excited about what the future holds, because each and every day I wake up, I get to transform
yes.
a child,
yes.
parent, an educator, a community. And that's what it's all about.
No, you're absolutely right. A couple of things in terms of that, and I just need to switch over because we're into the 8 o'clock hour. Take a hard stop and do that. But two things. One, my mother texts me. She says, good morning. Very good talk again. I love what I'm hearing. So my mother is listening. So we talked earlier when we were off air. Mother dear, Keith is very familiar with Louisville and Watley and those surrounding areas.
Listen, I love it. Okay. Jefferson, I love it. Yeah, so Louisville and Wadley and Swainsboro and Midville and all of those places. I have been those places. And Mama, I love you so very much. I have a poem in my book, Chitlins, Creative, Helpful, Intuitive Thoughts, Lifting Individuals Naturally Seeking. It's called Mother More. And so, Mama, from my heart to yours in Louisville, Georgia, thank you so much for being a mother more, a mama dear. Thank you so very much for birthing Marc Medley. and all the global work that he's doing. So, Mama, I'm sending a holy hug to you this morning. God bless you, Mama, and I love you.
And you know what, Keith? If nobody else listens, she gets. She's 78, 77, 78, going on 79, somewhere around in that area. But she gets up every Saturday morning and makes sure her computer's on so she can listen to this show. So if nobody's out there listening, I know she's listening.
And guess what? That's the power of a mother's love.
It is. That's
the power of a mother's love. So, man, just once again, man, I want to come to the area, 860-997-6802, Twitter at Keith L. Brown 1911. I've been retweeting, man, everything y'all putting out there. We want to blow Twitter up today, Keith L. Brown 1911, man. We want to talk about, this is what it is right here. This is what it is with Marc Medley. This is just powerful, man. You are the critical thinker, man. I'm amped up. We're on our summer tour, but I can't wait to start the back-to-school tour, and I'm going to stand before hundreds of thousands and say, look, recess is over. Get back to class.
I know that's right.
Look, and in our communities, I don't mean just get back to the classroom. Get back to a time where we had class.
That's absolutely right. I mean, and again, words are so powerful, and you masterfully use them because you are right. Even if you look musically, in terms of how the Temptations and all those groups dressed on stage versus how our groups dress now, I mean, we're almost naked now in comparison to those brothers in suits.
And they were suave.
Yes, they were.
And this is what I tell young artists today. If you notice, those groups like the Temptations and the Commodores, Earth, Wind, and Fire, they're timeless.
That's right.
Timeless.
That's right.
Timeless. So you don't want to be a one-season wonder.
That's right.
You want to be timeless. You see, when Jay-Z traded in the baggy pants for the suits, he became a mogul.
That's right.
He became a mogul, and that's what it's all about. You want to be a mogul. You want to be a mogul, so you got to say, I'm possible. It starts with your dress code, because the way in which you dress is the way in which you will be addressed.
That's exactly right. And then one thing before I cut over that you said about the daughters, one of the things that my pastor was big on this, he and I are very close, but one of the things we always told fathers was, with the daughters, exactly what you just said. Take them out first. Travel with them first. Absolutely. Because when that little tackhead comes talking about, you know, baby, I love you, the daughter is able to say, this ain't nothing special. I already been here with my father.
Ooh, that's it.
That's it, right? You ain't done nothing because my dad already opened the doors for me.
Absolutely. I don't need your jewelry.
Right.
My dad got me my first ring.
That's right.
Absolutely. So you're not, listen, because my dad got me my first ring, you're not going to give me any supper ring, and I'm going to wait for my wedding ring, okay? Y'all don't hear me today.
I know that's right. But seriously, I mean, that's why I'm with my daughters. It's like, these little tackheads not going to impress you. No. I already went to Florida with my dad. We did this already.
Been there, done that.
Right. So when they start talking that nonsense and they trying to impress and sway you, no, you're going to have to come a little stronger than that, because my dad already did that.
Absolutely, man. This is powerful. Oh, this is powerful. This is powerful this morning, and we have to keep the dialogue going. And this is more important. I know this is a radio program, but your listeners need to know this is the work we do every day.
Right.
We are advocates every day. And in parents, it doesn't take much for you to be an advocate. The biggest thing you can do for your child is show up.
That's right. And I'm going to do this, and then when we come back, I'm going to share another story with you about these girls. But I tell you, stay there. Don't you dare move.
Sounds good.
WPSC, Wayne, New Jersey. On the radio, 88.7 FM. Online, gobrave.org. A tune-in radio station. Part of the William Patterson Broadcast Network.
Broadcasting live from Hobart Hall in Wayne, New Jersey.
This is
The Innovative.
I think they're really unique.
The Fearless.
They have awesome variety.
The Kick-Ass.
I love Brave New Radio.
The Sensational.
I've never heard anything like it.
This is the one and only Brave New Radio.
Here's your North Jersey weather report.
All right, we have crept up to 73.7 degrees, on our way to 84. Expect scattered thunderstorms this morning, then mainly cloudy during the afternoon. Saturday night, thunderstorms in the evening. 80% chance of rain throughout the day and evening. Tomorrow, Sunday, even higher, 91 is a high, 69 is a low, partly cloudy skies. Monday, partly cloudy, stray shower here and there, 90 is a high, 66 as a low. Tuesday, 85 as a high, 65 as a low, except for a few afternoon clouds. And then rounding out our forecast on Wednesday, 84 as a high, 67 as a low. Expect some rain showers as well. My mother just texted me again. She says, "Thank you, Brother Keith. I love you too. I want my son to keep in touch."
Yeah.
I will do just that. I have something that I'm putting together now that I'm definitely going to have you on the list. I was going to start it last Saturday, but I'm getting ready to go away on vacation. And while I'm gone, I'm putting together, because like I told you, this year, the show has always been good, but this year has been extremely powerful in terms of the guests. And I said, God is doing something. I'm not sure what yet, but he's doing something based on the people. Because a couple of weeks ago, I had Martin Luther King's nephew on here, Isaac Newton Farris Jr. Isaac was on.
Christine Farris.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
He was my guest a couple of weeks ago, and man, we had a blast. And then, a few weeks ago, I had other guests that were strong as well. So there's a bunch. This year, I think I've had more men on the air than ever, because a lot of times with authors, they're females. But this year, my guests have been predominantly males, and I'm good with that because the listeners need to hear that. What I was telling you prior to the break, I know my little boys be mad at me, and I'm all right with that, because I always said if I write my first book, men are going to be mad at me in general. But the boys, this is what I tell little girls. I said, look, when that little boy come to you asking for your telephone number, ask to see his report card. I said, so now if that report card is full of F and D's, no, I'm sorry, brother. No, you can't have the numbers. Nothing you can do for me. But now if you got straight A's, maybe it's a possibility you might want to give him the number. I said, but you got to have your stuff in check too.
Yes,
because if you asking for his report card, your report card got to be up to snuff too now.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then when I'm speaking to the women out there, and they say, well, Mr. Brown, I want to marry a man who makes six figures. I say, well, do you make six figures?
Right.
I need to know what are you earning?
That right.
What are you earning? Because if you have those expectations for someone else, you need to first make certain that you're living up to those expectations as well.
Yes. And see, my thing with the report card is now, because this is the thing. This is where I say brothers are going to be hot with me. Whether we want to admit it or not, just about, if you look historically, just about every activity that's taken on, for the most part, from a male perspective, I don't care if it's humans, animals, or whatever, it's done to impress the female.
All the time.
Everything, for the most part, the car you drive, the clothes you wear, the six-figure job, is to impress females for the most part. Okay. Yes. So this is when I tie it back to the report card thing. I said, now, if the little brothers know, if I want to get their phone numbers, I'm going to have to get straight A's. Guess what I'm going to start getting out the brothers?
A's.
Straight A's. That's right.
And guess what? And I'm okay with that.
I am too.
I'm okay with that. So if I have to brainwash you into
right.
straight A's, that's what I'm going to do. And let me say this. Also, the labeling. Our son is a scholar at the Savannah State University.
All right now.
He's also an intern with one of the senators that I work with. And he's a leader on campus, a leader off campus. And I do understand he has flaws as well as all young people do. But my son, we call him Attorney Keon Jamal Brown.
Yes, indeed.
And people say, well, why would you call him attorney? He's still in college. I said, because we name it, we
That's
claim it.
right. I'm right there with you, because I do the same thing with my students. Once I figure out, once they tell me what they want to be, that's exactly what I do. If they want to be a doctor, I call them doctor. If they want to be an attorney, I call them attorney. Whatever they want to be. Because people look at me like, why are you calling this 7th grade girl attorney?
Thank you. And people always, and you have the skeptics who say, well,
right.
You're setting them up for failure. No, I'm setting them up for significance.
That's right. Go ahead now.
No one has ever done it before. Maybe if someone would have called you what you should have been, then you wouldn't be so skeptical.
That's right. You're right. I had a young lady, she told me she wants to be an author. I said, I'll tell you what, when you write your first book, you can appear on my show. You should have seen the smile on her face.
Wow. That is so very powerful. But it goes back to expectations. And
right.
So many in the African-American community have low expectations, and we have to get back to high expectations. Where, in other words, when that young man, as you said, when he makes straight A's, that's what we expect.
That's absolutely right.
That's what we.
That's right.
That we don't have to reward you for every passing grade. That we don't. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you should not reward your children, but what I'm saying is this. Every time they pass a quiz, you don't have to buy them a new pair of sneakers. You understand?
Right.
You need to let them know that this is what's expected, because when you get in the workforce, every positive thing you do, you're not going to be rewarded, but you are there in a spirit of excellence to create excellence. When you are an entrepreneur, you're not going to be rewarded every time that you create a new product, but you will be rewarded with economic excellence and empowerment if you operate in a spirit of excellence. And that's what I'm teaching young people across the country. We have to operate with a spirit of excellence. Brother Medley, we have to get back to a spirit of excellence.
Yes, we do.
And no more excuses. No more excuses. We must step up. Our parents, we must advocate for our parents. And parents, you got to show up. Once again, I said, if you can show up for that basketball game or that football game, you can show up for curriculum night. You can show up for that PTA meeting. Fathers, if you can take off for that football game on Friday night, you got to be able to take off for that child's education as well. And I'm a big fan of sports, but I don't want March Madness. Every year, March Madness turns into May Sadness, because we have so many young men of color who are playing basketball in March, but they're not graduating in May.
That's right.
So March Madness becomes May Sadness. So I'm about fighting that as well. I'm about giving our young people what America said: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But you can't have happiness without the pursuit.
That's right. And
so it's about the pursuit,
yes,
life, liberty, and the pursuit. And so I'm just an advocate for that which America put down on paper, and I'm going to hold America accountable, and I'm going to hold my people accountable. I'm going to hold all people accountable, and when I look in that mirror, I'm going to hold myself accountable.
I know that's right. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, I'm going to turn the mic off, and you're going to get a chance to say that telephone number, and website, and Twitter site, and all that again as we come to the conclusion. But this has been powerful yet again.
Yeah.
As soon as I get home, I'm gonna text Yusuf and say thank you again.
Wonderful. Please do.
But so hang on, let me share this information with the listening audience, and then when we come back, I give you a chance to promote, and you'll be able to say anything with the exception of a dollar amount. Talk about your book, your tour, everything else.
Absolutely, I'll be here.
All right.
My name is Diamonds. I am a radio DJ in North Jersey. I broadcast on the frequency of 88.7 FM. I will be on the air every Saturday from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. when the sun is setting in the sky. If you are out there, if anyone is out there, I can provide music, I can provide entertainment. If there's anybody out there, anybody, please.
Club Melting Pot. Every Saturday from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Only on WP 88.7 FM, Brave New Radio.
Adopt US Kids presents Multiple Choice Parenting.
Your daughter just got invited to the prom. Do you A, meet her date?
I need to see your past date report cards, your driver's license, a list of references, and this hair sample.
B, help her pick out a dress.
Don't you just love the long sleeves and turtleneck on this pantsuit?
Ugh.
C, attend the prom undercover.
Mom, what are you doing here?
I'm not Mom, I'm Calvin, the new kid at school.
Or D, capture her big moment.
Let's take a photo of you two. I'm in the middle.
When it comes to parenting, there are no perfect answers. But that's okay, because you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
I want to tell you a secret everyone should know. Are you listening?
When it comes to your body,
the greatest gift you can give yourself
is knowing your HIV status.
Knowing your status allows you to live your life
and stay healthy.
So follow my lead.
I'm doing it.
I'm doing it.
I'm doing it.
And make HIV testing a part of your routine.
It's fast, free, and confidential.
Get tested today. You'll be glad you did.
Visit cdc.gov/doing it.
Dave, what are you doing?
Just sending a gift to Dave 2037.
Who?
Me in the future. I save a little money from every paycheck as a gift to Dave 2037, so he can spend it on things like anti-gravity boots or a hologram Doberman, something cool like that. I think Dave 2037 deserves it. He worked hard. What are you getting Steve 2037?
I guess I was thinking Steve 2037 would just fend for himself.
Well, all right, but don't expect to be borrowing my anti-gravity boots.
You want to have money in your future? You got to start saving now. Putting some money from every paycheck into a savings account or contributing to your 401k can make a big difference later. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free ideas and easy ways to save, go to feedthepig.org. That's feedthepig.org.
Hey, let's just hope Steve 2037 doesn't get his hands on a cool time machine, because he is going to come back here and knock some sense into you.
This message brought to you by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the Ad Council.
Music, the vinyl frontier. Tune into the adventures of Rewind to Now. Its weekly mission: to explore time-honored music, to seek out lesser-known bands and forgotten tunes, to boldly go where the music is the star of the show. How you doing, G-Man checking in? Set your radio, computer, and tricorder to the one program that enables you to experience the future of the past through the music. We interface Sundays at 9 a.m. Prepare to be transported to a world where the music is fascinating. Set your coordinates to Rewind to Now. It's the logical thing to do. No bones about it.
You wanted to be a teacher when you were little, but as you grew up, things changed. Teaching just didn't seem like the best option anymore, so you decided to become something else. But what would your 12-year-old self say? Interesting and innovative things are happening in teaching today, so it's time to put it back on your list. Don't try to convince yourself otherwise. You had it right the first time.
Find out how you can make more at teach.org. Make more. Teach. Brought to you by Teach and the Ad Council.
Well, welcome back to an educational and energetic and informative and entertaining and then some interview that I've had with my guest this morning, Keith L. I'm Possible Brown. And before I shared all that information with you, I said we were going to give Keith the opportunity when we come back to promote all he'd like, with the exception of saying any dollar amounts or any costs or anything like that. But in terms of contact information, in terms of websites and Twitter feeds and anything else, where he's going to be, where you can catch up with him and see him, what next stop is, that he has the opportunity to do. I have enjoyed this conversation, and I even hate to use the word enjoy because it's beyond enjoyment. But I have been inspired and motivated and energized and re-energized, and I'm trying to even think of the adjectives and the verbs and everything else that I want to say. But the last hour and 20 minutes or so that we've been talking, I leave here just pumped up. So I'm giving you the opportunity to promo in any manner you so choose.
Oh, I appreciate that. Just want to say, man, to the critical thinker, Marc Medley, thank you so very much for having me on such a powerful, powerful radio program that's touching the lives of hundreds of thousands and even, I dare say, millions, not just across the Northeast, but across the globe, because we're all about global interfacing. Definitely follow me on Twitter at Keith L. Brown 1911, Keith L. Brown 1911. The website is keithlbrown.com, keithlbrown.com. And to bring me to your area, your school district, your college, just to bring me out, please call 860-997-6802, 860-997-6802. And I definitely want you all to wake up every morning when you get out of bed, say, not impossible, I'm possible. I want to tell all your listeners today, never let anyone's negative opinion of you become your opinion of yourself, and never let anyone tell you what you can't do, especially if they've never done it. Not impossible, I'm possible. Continue to be empowered.
Man, I love it. I love it. I love it. Like I said, I don't even want to. I hate to use the word enjoy, even though I understand the definition of enjoy, because people say that in church all the time. I enjoyed your sermon. It's just like, it's beyond enjoy, because we weren't just there for your entertainment. Yeah. We hope that you gleaned and you took away something in terms of the information side, some of the tips that we talked about, some of the ideas. For those of you who are fathers out there, if you have daughters, make sure you're that first model for her, so that when these little tackheads come along, they can say, no, that's not a big deal for me. For the women out there, as much as we love you, you do understand you can be emasculating when you feel as if you need to cut across. If one set of directions have been given and you turn around and give the child another set of directions, that is emasculating, because the child now says, I don't have to listen to him because mom is going to say this. So you need to understand those dynamics. Those things were shared, as well as just this whole notion of striving for excellence, not being stuck in mediocrity. My pastor had a sermon a couple of weeks ago. It was based on the prodigal son, and the title was, Why Are You So Satisfied with Slop? Why are we so satisfied with slop? And the whole thing was, as he went through the sermon, was the prodigal son came to himself, and this is not for me. Yeah. This, and then at some point, when do we get to that point where slop is not enough?
We will, and we will continue to fight, because one thing about it, that prodigal son knew he did not belong in that.
That's right.
And our young people know that they don't deserve to fail. They don't deserve average. They don't even want average. So we have to give them excellence, and that's what we do. And so to all of your listeners out there, have excellence as a part of your family. Sit down at the dinner table again. Let me say this. If you can't do it every day, at least once or twice a week, have a meal together.
That's right.
So we used to eat dinner together.
That's right.
Brother Medley will tell you we ate dinner together as a family.
That's right.
Sat down not just on big Sunday dinners where everybody got together at family reunions. We did this daily, where we would talk about our days. So sometimes you got to put the phone down, don't text, but talk.
That's right.
We had to be in the house when the street lights came on, so please,
That's right.
No street lights come on. Parents, please know where your children are. It's so very important. We just got to get back to a time where we had less, but we did more.
Yes.
Now we have more, but we do less.
Yes.
So we got to balance that off so that we can basically continue to do more and to be more and be all that we were called to be, and to live the impossibilities to the best of our ability. Once again, Keith L. Brown 1911 on Twitter, and for those young people, I'm on Instagram at Keith L. Brown 1911 as well. They always ask. Yes, I'm on Instagram at Keith L. Brown 1911. You can go see videos on my YouTube channel at Keith L. Brown 1911, and bring me to your area by calling 860-997-6802. You're going to have a wonderful weekend. You're going to have a sensational Saturday. You're going to have a significant Sunday, a magnificent Monday, a tremendous Tuesday, a wonderful Wednesday, a trailblazing Thursday, a fabulous Friday every single day. When you're on top of the soil and it's not on top of you, you have an opportunity to go from impossible to I'm possible.
Now, keep in mind, folks, this is coming from a special ed student who went to specialty speaker. And
Say
as
it
you can
Say it again.
From special ed to specialty speaker. That's why that whole labeling thing is nonsense. That's a whole nother interview. But man, I applaud you. I love what you do. Keep doing it. You and your wife, the educators, and your son, and keep, as my mother can say, keep on keeping on.
Yes. To all of our elders, thank you. And my wife is applauding you in the background, man. She is fired up this morning as well. She is fired up, and this is what it's about. We are in the struggle together to liberate hearts, minds, and souls, to build legacy, and the legacy that God has called us to build. Not impossible, I'm possible.
On that note, man, we will definitely, as my mother can say, you better keep in touch with him. I listen to what my mama says, so she told me to keep in touch. I'm definitely going to keep in touch.
Let's do it, man. Thank you so very much, man. You are awesome.
Same with you, man.
Mark, brother. Leave your mark. Thank you so much. Be empowered.
You too. Have a wonderfully blessed day and week.
Absolutely.
Take care.
Take care.
Whoo! Fender. I don't know if you're listening out there, but you usually give me a call after the interview. I don't know if you caught this week or not, but if you want to give me a call, and I told you last week, because your insights were so good after the interview. I said, man, we should have been on the air. So I don't know if you're going to call in this morning or not, but man, whew, I tell you, this has been a powerful year, boy. Before the end of the day, I will have followed Keith on all Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all of it. I will have followed him on all. I already liked his Facebook page. So before everything is done, I will have gotten to all his other social media sites as well. Again, my guest this morning was Keith L. Brown, Mr. I'm, that's I''M, possible. It can be done. There's too many folks that are always talking about what they can't do. I can't this. I can't live like that. I can't do this. I can't. We really need to stop putting the word can't behind the word I. Because like I said earlier, anything you put behind the words I am becomes your reality. And the same holds true the other way. Soon as you put the word can't behind the word I, Henry Ford said, whether you think right or think wrong, either way you make it happen. Think right or think wrong, that's your thinking. So as soon as either way you're right. I mean, I have to look the quote up, but paraphrasing it, what he says is think right or think wrong, either way you're right. So that's the way that's the way it's going to come out for you, is based on your thinking. So if you're constantly putting I can't this, I can't that, I can't this, I can't that, guess what? You won't. But as you heard through that interview with Keith, you reframe things. And that's not saying you're going to be Pollyannish. That's not saying you're going to look through or look through life with rose-colored glasses, or however they say those things. But I'm telling you, I'm a big believer in this mindset, the law of attraction, faith, spirit. I'm a major believer in all of that nothing happens by happenstance. Nothing happens by coincidence. It's all by a grand design. The guests that I've been getting this year is all by a grand design. It's not by accident. God is sending these people my way for a purpose. Like I said, he's doing something. I don't know what, but something is going to come from the people that I've been meeting in 2017 and in 2016. I told you last week, Walter L. Fields Jr. was my guest speaker, my commencement speaker. And man, did he hit a home run at our graduation. Last week's guest, this week's guest. Now, I'll tell you this while I do have you. I will not be with you next Saturday morning because I actually will be traveling. But the week after that, God willing, I will be back. But next Saturday, I'm not on the air with you. And I'm certainly going to miss it because, like I said, I'm in a groove now, and I am grateful and thankful to God for that. We are in some groove that we're going to put all these people together, and something's going to happen. I don't know what. Something's got to happen because it's too much happening on the top end that's negative. It's too much coming at us on the top end that's negative. The bottom got to push back up positive. Light drives out darkness. Darkness cannot sustain. Darkness cannot survive when there's light. It can't. If you go into a dark room with a flashlight, the darkness in that area flees. For the beam of the light, darkness can't exist. If you flick on the light in the room that's dark, the entire darkness in the room flees. Whenever you drive at night, when you put your headlights on, again, in the sphere of that light or in the direction of those beams, darkness cannot exist. That's why we have headlights. Darkness will never, ever overcome light. It is an impossible. Now, you want to talk impossible? That is an impossibility. Darkness will never, ever overcome light. So even in a dark place, once you enter the room with a light, whether it's a candle or a flashlight or a lamp or a lantern or whatever, once you enter that room with light, the darkness must flee. It disappears. So there's too much darkness coming down from the top. So some light has to begin to come up from the bottom. That's my point in the story.